Okay, so I'm going to be showing you how to mod Soup 0.9. This is just a graphical and audio mod. It's not code related at all. Now, I'm assuming that if you're interested in modding Soup 0.9, you may have already downloaded the mods that I have done, either Rooms of the Rooms or VineRooms. And if you've downloaded any of those, you won't have to worry about, there's a save data that you have to edit in order to access all of the rooms. And I can show you in this one. Let's see, it's so save data.txt. And normally if you have the original version of Soup, it'll start out with 0, mine's 775, which I think is indicative of how many rooms have been visited, and that I've actually gone through a lot while trying to test the game out while modding it. But the original version of Soup has it set to 0, and this is because in the original game you would start on like at day 1 as the first set of rooms, like 5 rooms that you have to go through, and then the game will close and then you have to reopen it, and then you'll get access to the next 5 rooms. Now if you have the mods that I did, it's already, all the rooms are already unlocked and you don't have to worry about going through the game to unlock them. But if you do have the original version of Soup, you can go into the save data, and you can just, if you change the 0 to 10, it should allow you to get access to the other rooms. Another thing is, well, you should probably, if you're going to be modding any of these or the original version of Soup, you should probably make a copy of the folder. That way you have a backup of the original, just in case you like fuck up the mod or something, or need to use some things from the original game. Now after you make a copy of the folder, you can name it whatever you want for your own mod. I would suggest not changing any of the names of the original files though. I don't know how exactly the game is coded, but it's better if you keep all of the room folders the same name, and also the BGMs as well. The only thing that you can change with the BGMs is the, I think, let's see here, there's a text file, that's not this one, I think it's in source. There's a text file in the source folder. Let's see, I think it's data. Okay, so this actually, different OGG files are designated to certain rooms, so if you do want to change those, you don't want to rename the rooms that are listed here, but you can actually change the name of the OGG files. So if you want to use your own music files, you can change the name of them, and then you need to make sure that you put the OGG file that you listed in the text in the BGM folder. I had to do this with, in the original version of Soup, there's 2 rooms that share the same OGG file, so I actually had to go into the data and change it. Let's see which one it is here. This one here. So I had to add an extra OGG file because there were 2 rooms that were sharing the same. So if you want to do that, you can. Okay, as for modding the rooms, the thing with Soup 0.9 is it has sets of 5 rooms, and when you start out, like say the first day or the first set of rooms, it'll always be the same 5 rooms, but it starts in a random order. So I can show you here. Let's open up Soup. Make sure to click no if you're starting this up, because you'll want it in windowed. It makes it easier while you're working on, like say, the graphic files, to use the program as a reference. So you want to, if you have it in windowed mode, it'll be easier to use as a reference while you're working on stuff. Okay.
Have mercy.
Okay, so like this is the first set of rooms, right? Let me see if I can turn this down. Okay, I have it turned down now. It was a little too loud. So it actually started on the Tingle room. So yeah, it'll basically start on, it'll always have the same 5 rooms. So if you want to, what I did for both rooms of the rooms and VineRooms is I had each of the sets of 5 rooms themed after a certain thing. So if you want to do that, you'll actually have to go into the program, sort of memorize what's in those 5 rooms, and then you'll have to look into the folders. So I'll show you in just a second. So we've got Tingle Room, Sponge Room, Corruption Room, Duxie Room, and the Luigi Room. So that's the set of 5. So if you go into the source folder, and since I would recommend keeping the names of the folders the same just to make sure everything works as it should, you'll have to look into the folders and see what sort of graphic files are there. That's the only way to figure out which rooms are which. So, and it would be good to actually sort of keep track of the rooms as well, if you want. I didn't actually, it probably would have been easier if I had actually put which folders had which rooms in them. It would have made it easier, but if you want to do this too, it'll make it easier to figure out which rooms are what. But I also made a list of the rooms in order to, when I was working on them, in order to put notes down like I need to work on this graphic, or I need to work on this sound, or this particular room has this sort of theme in it. It just helped during the process. Okay, so this is the Luigi room, which is in one of the rooms in the first set that you go through. So that's Dawn Room 3. So let's edit this one, and I'm gonna I'll make a copy of this. Actually, copy. Okay, this is the copy. Okay, we'll be editing these texture files in Dawn Room 3 in order to create our room. You'll want to make sure both the name and the format of the files stay the same. Now, to give you an idea what these correspond to, chr.bmp is the graphic that shows up in the middle. And for all of these texture files, you'll want to make sure if you want anything to be transparent in the picture, you'll need to make sure it's black. Black is the transparent color. Floor is going to be your floor. Layer is the overlay, and I believe it's got a 50 or 70% transparency on it. Minichrome, I have black for this particular room because I don't have anything running around, but this will be like the little animated like small little pixel thing that runs around the rooms. And they show up randomly, so if you're editing them and you want to like test out to see how they look, you'll probably have to wait in the rooms for quite a while until they show up in order to see how it looks. And then wall is just going to be your wall. Now you can open these in Paint and edit them as they are, and just keep in mind, keep the black as your transparency. A good way to tell also if you're doing it this way is to tell if any pixels are going to show up in the game or not is to use like a contrasting color. That way you can actually see the edges of the image and see if there's like any junk that's going to show up that you need to kind of edit out. Okay, and I actually used Paint Tool Sci to edit the graphics because I was using like I was kind of like photoshopping certain images together, or like doing my own art in Sci and then resizing them down to the size of these image files. And for some of the rooms, they actually have larger images, so you'll just have to keep that in mind when you're working on them. So, for instance, if you want, let's see if we can go to it. This room actually has a pretty big wall on it. Let's see, this is, I can't see the, okay, so this is 512 by 512. So say you want, when you go into the rooms, usually see about this level. You're not normally going to look up or anything, and unfortunately with Soup, there's only like 2 images designated to the rooms. There's no like image for the ceiling, so you basically have to just kind of work with what it has. So let's say, let's go to another room here. Should be in this one. Okay, so like the bar, for instance. So say you want to do a room that has like a large image that you want to kind of emulate like a certain type of room, and it has like a lot of detail in it. You want to make sure you use the rooms that have the larger wall images, like 512 by 512. I'm not sure the exact size for this one, but it probably is one of the 512 by 512 rooms. So just keep that in mind if you're like trying to work on a certain room. Look for the folders that have the larger image files in them for rooms. I think for all of the folders, the middle graphic is going to be the same size. However, I believe some of the floors in some of the folders are actually a larger size image too. So you'll just have to kind of look around and see which ones you want to use for a particular type of room and like how much detail you want in it. Okay, so I'm going to work on the middle graphic first for the room, and I'm using Paint Tool Sci, and these are the images I'm going to be working with. And the great thing about Sci is you can actually have multiple tabs open so you can work quickly. Since I'm going to be replacing the original graphic, I'm going to pick the color that's in the background and completely just cover this up. That way the whole square is the transparent color. And I'm going to be working on these 2 images to create something, and then resizing it to the size of this bitmap. Okay, now that you've got your center graphic done, go ahead and save or export it as a BMP or a bitmap file, and save over the chr.bmp in the folder. Now we want to go ahead and open up Soup and see how it looks. Okay, as you can see, it shows up in the middle, but it looks like we've got a few junk pixels here, and the text is showing up transparent. So what we'll have to do is open up the graphic in Paint and work on it. And you can actually keep Soup open because it'll work fine if you're working on the graphic at the same time. And after you're finished with it, you can actually just walk through the rooms and reload the room, and it'll actually show the updated version of that graphic. Okay, so we have our texture open in Paint, and in order to fix the leftover pixels, we want to, well, at least this is what I do. You can use a different technique, but I usually use like a contrasting color, like red, and it shows me the edges of the graphic, so I can see what's being left over here, and then I can just kind of fix that. Let's see, even take off maybe some of these dark edges. It really depends on what kind of room the graphic shows up in, though. If it's a darker room, you can get away with the darker edges being left on. But if it's a really light room, you might want to fix it up a bit more. Fix some of these other pixels. Now, because the text is showing up transparent, we want to change the color of the text. So you might want to go, you just select black and go just slightly up. Just slightly. then recolor it, it should show up without being transparent. There's other ways you can do this too, though, in whatever image editor you're using as well. It's just, for me, it's just quicker to do it in Paint. So just fill these in. Can't really tell a difference, but it should show up in the game. Okay, that's done. And then, well, shit, here's another thing. Oh, another thing, when you're editing the picture in Paint and fixing the pixels, you might want to save the original color. I'm pretty sure it's just black, but just in case, I'll just pick the color and save it, just put it onto the side, that way you can pick it later and fill the transparent parts of the picture again. Okay, that looks like it needs to be fixed a little bit more. Fix some of these edges here. I'm not going to do too much. Okay. Alright, we're going to fill this back up again and see how it looks in the program. Go ahead and save that. Alright, we're going to reload it. So we can see this still has the pixels on it. All you have to do is walk out until you reach the, I guess the menu. Or the option screen, whatever you want to call it. Selection screen. Okay. Let's reload it again. As you're working on the graphics and everything for this game, you will be running through the rooms quite a bit. Just make sure everything is looking like it should. Where is it? Here. Oh, there we go. The text showing up. And yep, it's fixed. There we go. So that's how you do the, at least the center graphic. And then I'm going to show you how to do the walls. Now, if you really want to, you can just replace the wall texture with whatever you want. Just, you know, slap an image over it. But if you want to make it look nice, then you're going to have to create a seamless texture to where both the bottom and the top and then the sides blend in together. And it's even more important for this one, not so much. It's got kind of like a repeating image, but you can tell the middle between the two images blend in, and then from the top of the images to the bottom of the ones that are right on top of it, they blend in. And then for the floor, you can do that as well. That's what I did for this one. I just sort of like blended it in. It is my own image. This one's actually my own art. I know it looks kind of like a Virginia, but it's actually supposed to be, I don't know, a flesh tube or something. Whatever it is. Let me see if I can find a room where this... not so much this one. I guess you can see this one here. And this one uses a large image for the walls, so you can put more detail into it, have more going on. But the sides blend in, and then the top and the bottom as well. Now, in order to create sort of like a 3D edge for the wall, I sort of did like some shadowing. That way it looks like it's kind of going in. Like there's a darker edge here. And then for the pool graphic, I also had to do like make it look seamless. That way you don't see any like lines going through the images as they're put together. Okay, so this is the original wall texture and the one we'll be working with. And this is the image I'm going to use for it, which I got off of Google. Now this image probably isn't seamless, but I'm going to show you what it looks like if you just lay it over the other texture file here. It is kind of square, so we'll do this much of it. Copy. Paste it over it. And I'm going to resize it just a bit. Okay, and then I'm going to save or export it over the original texture file and see how it looks. Ah, it actually doesn't look too bad. Yeah, you can kind of see that it cuts through the image here. So that's where the two images are split up. Not too bad though. I do want to fix it a bit, and also the top and the bottom are blending in. So I do want to kind of make it look like it's the little what do you call them, sockets or something, are blending in. So we'll reopen it and I'll show you how to make it look seamless. Okay, so I usually, in order to make the wall texture seamless, what I do is I take, now this is since most of the picture is a lighter color, I'm actually going to take the bottom of the picture and copy it to the top and flip it, since the darker texture contrasts with everything else in the image, so I'm going to paste over it. So what we can do is take the eraser, set it very lightly. There we go. Now we're kind of, it helps blend the picture that was, or part of the picture that was pasted over in with the rest of it. Alright, and we're going to combine the layers. There we go. Now for the sides, we'll pretty much do the same thing. Flip that horizontally. Make sure there's no weird lines showing up. Make sure I match it pretty perfectly. And then pretty much do the same thing with the eraser, just sort of blend it in along the edge. Now with Sai you can actually adjust the colors a bit too. With the image that you're using. This is a bit too bright. Maybe a bit more yellow. Not quite as saturated. Okay, and then I'm gonna save it and see how it looks. It still looks like the top, it's because the top's still dark. Not sure what to do with that, but I mean the image is pretty big, so if somebody's coming into the room, they're just pretty much gonna see this much unless they look up, and there's nothing you can really do about that. Although the middle looks weird too. That's okay though. I think I'll just stick with that, but you get the idea. And now I'm gonna work on the floor. And I haven't quite figured out what I want to do for the layered, the overlay yet. Might shove some bees on it or something, I don't know. Or part of a hive. I have no idea. Okay, for the floor texture I decided I wanted it to match with the wall because it's a hive, so let's see, I'm gonna take what I use for the floor and just copy it over. I don't think the floor texture is the same size, but we'll see. Probably isn't. I think it's a smaller graphic, but I can probably resize it. Probably have to recopy the sides again in order to make it seamless, because sometimes resizing will leave an unnecessary line, like a darker line here, especially with Sai. But I'll see how it looks. Oh, that's not bad. I don't see any lines going through it, so I think it should be alright. At least it's not noticeable if there's any lines going through. So I basically created a room, and for the, I might show you how to do the layover too. The only thing is that the overlay is a very small graphic, so if you want to do text, you're going to have to actually draw the text. Because if you try to put text in with any sort of font that you have, no matter how small you try to put it, it's not even going to show up. It's going to look completely pixelated and not easy to read at all. So you'll actually have to just draw it out, which is what I did for most of these. Now another thing we can do, and I don't have it in this room, but I can make one, is that some of the rooms actually have like a little animated thing that crawls across the floor. May or may not be animated, but it can be. And I'll try to see if I can do something with that. I might have like a little bee flying across the room. As you can see, the layer for that room is incredibly small. And I don't think I want any text over it for the B room. I think I'm just going to change the layer coloring. So let's see here. What do we want to do for that? You can basically, with the layers, you can just kind of experiment with gradients and whatever you want to do, really. Just see how it turns up. Wow, that is messy looking. I'll see how that shows up. Okay, let's see how this looks. It just creates like a simple kind of like coloring, transparent coloring with a dark middle. That's fine. Now if you want to get text to show up, you'll have to... Anything that's colored in white, it'll show up better, since it's a transparent layer. And then I think I'll do an animated bee for this room, so I'll show you how to do that. Okay, mini chr.bmp is the animated, I guess, pixel art that shows up in some of the rooms. This room didn't have one, so I just saved over it with a one from another room. From Rooms of the Rooms, the football. So we'll go ahead and open that up. And unfortunately, I haven't figured out which... So it's basically in frames, since it can be animated. This is static. Unfortunately, I can't zoom in any further than this. If you got a pixel art program, it might be easier to edit it in. I'm using the football because it would be an easy base for a bee. I think so this in the corner here, the first corner, that's like your frame 1, and it either goes down for frame 2 or over for frame 2. I haven't figured that out yet. So you'll basically just have to kind of experiment and then load the game up and see how it shows up. So let's make ourselves a bee. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna open this up in a pixel art program because I'll actually be able to see what the hell I'm doing. I can't zoom in any further than this. Okay, so I'm editing this in Piskel, actually, which is a pretty decent pixel editing program and good for animations too. So now I can actually see what the hell I'm doing. So I'm going to use the positions of these footballs as kind of a base of where to do the bee. I'm going to do a simple bee. I'm not going to try and do it perfect. Okay, so we have our terrible B graphic done. I'm hoping I got the frames right. Now I'm going to have to, well, with Piskel, it doesn't export to BMP, so I'll have to export it as a PNG and then save it as a BMP and hope it turns out alright. And then I'll see how it looks in the game. Okay, so with all the rooms, the little animated things that show up, like they kind of randomly spawn, so you'll probably have to wait in the rooms a bit to see how they turn out. So we're gonna wait in this room and see where it shows up. Hopefully it turned out okay. Oh, nope, there it is. That's a little jittery, but I think in order to make the wings faster, I need to just make one frame be the different wing position. That looks a little stupid, but you get the idea. I think I might fix that, but I mean, that's the basic gist of it. That's how you mod these rooms. It's just a graphical modification, really. And then for the audio, just if you want to use your own music or sounds or anything, just you can use like Audacity to open up the OGG files. VLC will also open them up as well, but if you want to like edit them, you can use Audacity. And then for the music that I put in the game, I would use a combination of Audacity and Magix Music Maker to create music and convert them to OGG files to use for the game. So if you do that, just make sure they're in the either saved as the same name and put in the BGM folder, or you'll have to go to the I think I mentioned a file earlier in this video that you'll have to just rename. If you choose to use like your own OGG files and they're named something different, just make sure to go to that text file, and you'll have to figure out which rooms they go to, and just like make sure you put the names of those in there. That way it'll actually show up properly. But that's it. And I know I'm not as articulate at trying to explain things, but I hope this helps in modding the game, and just, you know, get creative, I guess, and go wild. See what you can do with it. Have fun.